This is new footage from the rumble in Crimea, starting out with the Pantsir, just straight missing the drone right there. It looks like it was fired by that weapon system. Instead, the drone going to fly directly into this Russian S-300 radar and take it out. So this is a series of videos put out by Ukraine in the last couple days here, again, that they're referring to as the rumble in Crimea, where they're taking out enemy air defense systems, naval assets, and a helicopter. A little later on. It looks like it was carried out by this Primar unit of the Ukrainian GUR. We've seen a couple videos from them in the past, but it's interesting how they got here. We got a couple quick clips here showing that these may have been launched by naval drones, actually. So this video was released just a couple days ago from Russian sources saying what you're seeing here is footage of the Magura Venom naval drone launching another smaller drone, which might explain how all of a sudden we've got some of these fixed-wing drones taking out significant Russian assets in Crimea. Now, a couple interesting pieces here as we run through this. You're going to see a lot of the targets are air defense, which means they're probably clearing the path for something else. Could be clearing the path for fixed-wing aircraft, F-16s, maybe. That would be big, right? We haven't seen the F-16s used in any way like that so far in the war. Or maybe just longer-range missiles, or even larger drones with bigger warheads. So that was the first clip that we have from this rumble in Crimea. A second, much longer clip came out earlier today, again from the GUR. I'll put links to all of this footage in the description below if you want to watch it in the entirety. But they actually run through a long list here of everything they destroy, and it is a lot, and we'll see it as we go. And this is actually the clip that ends up striking like a boat, kind of a tugboat looking thing, and a helicopter, Mi-8 helicopter, while it's grounded. So again, really a focus here on not just the air defense launcher, so like the S-300 launcher or the Pantsir, and we will see a couple of those targeted as well, but a lot of focus on removing Russia's eyes in Crimea. These are the radars. So every one of these radars are going to be interconnected. They overlay in a way to give Russian air defense and Russian command and control an idea of what's in their airspace. And some big ones here. Pretty long range in a lot of ways. So by removing those, these are expensive radars. They take a long time to produce, a long time to deploy and get in place. Russia only has so many. Just like any military in the world, there's only so many. So when you can punch out enough of those, could be 5%, 10%, 20% or more, you knock out enough of those, you essentially create an area over Crimea, which the idea here is this would be deliberate. It wouldn't just be hit everything you can possibly see. It would be opening a door. So maybe these are all in a 15-kilometer stretch along the western coast of Crimea, right? So that would create a pocket of darkness for Russian air defense. Here's we got the boat that it looks like they hit. Interesting that the Magura unmanned surface vessels are launching airborne drones to still strike boats. But either way, there's been some submarine nets put up in some of these areas that's made it harder for the Maguras to get in there and actually impact the ships. But either way, it looks like what Ukraine is doing in this case is trying to create an area inside of Crimea, a path to Crimea, and then over the mainland there, where their aircraft will be able to operate, or larger drones will be able to operate, infiltrate the airspace, and then successfully strike targets. So we know Ukraine has the range. Just yesterday, they fired a drone and struck the Engels Air Base. It's like 700 kilometers away from the front. Another Pantsir down. So they definitely have the range to target just about anything, anywhere in Crimea. The only impediment would be that it would get shot down before it gets there. So, here goes the Mi-8 helicopter. This one's really interesting because it means not only did the drone get past air defense, but it got past the air defense at an airport. And a lot of these airfields, there's kind of second and third layers of protection for just that reason, because the aircraft are, pretty vulnerable when they're sitting in the field like that. Now, another interesting piece with all of this, as we start to wrap up this rumbling Crimea footage, is we're not getting a lot from Russia talking about this at all, based off of the quality of the footage, the where it's taking place. This does appear to be recent. I wouldn't say that this all is from like the last 10 or 15 days, right? I'd probably add a little bit longer of a time period here and say this could have been footage taken over the course of the last year, maybe even a little bit longer, possibly. Again, there's no dates and no way to know for sure exactly when some of these strikes took place, but we're not hearing a lot from Russia in terms of strikes in Crimea, which isn't out of the ordinary. They're not usually prone, neither side is prone to advertise when they've had significant drone strikes taking out things like air defense assets. They never publicize that. But we're also not seeing the secondary footage from Ukraine, which means that every drone being launched over Crimea is used as a strike asset. And it's not like we see over some of the battlefield in the east and the south. We'll see Ukraine and Russia put up recon drones and then fly strike drones underneath that, and they capture the entire process start to finish. They're not doing that in Crimea, probably because it's a much more contested airspace. But either way, nothing really from Russia in terms of those attacks quite yet, but they could be clearing the path for what could be a larger wave of Ukrainian drones or fixed-wing aircraft here before too long. The second one I wanted to show you here was a Russian clip of an unmanned ground vehicle, and you'll see here they add 2 TM-62 landmines. Just tape them on there, I guess, with some sort of remote detonator. And we've got a little bit of the pilot's view here, but I want to switch over to the overhead view because this is an example of how they actually used a drone overhead, a recon drone, to kind of help guide this in. So you can see the Ukrainian soldiers moving to this underground facility, just a basement somewhere. My understanding is this was actually in Pokrovsk, so kind of southeastern portion of the front. And we've seen unmanned ground, a combination of a couple things here. So they're able to watch the Ukrainian soldiers move in to take cover. We've seen TM-62 landmines, anti-tank landmines, used in this capacity before as kind of satchel charges of sorts, just demolitions charges. Heck, Israel's even using that to destroy buildings in Gaza in the course of the last year or so. So it is something that can be utilized. We've seen Russia and Ukraine use those to kind of toss them into buildings, and especially like this, and try to bring the entire thing down. The combination here is we're starting to see UGVs, and there's been a little bit of this, unmanned ground vehicles right here, layered with those explosives, and they become suicide vehicles, right? Which isn't crazy. That's what we're seeing from the drones that fly overhead as well. A big challenge with the UGVs, and there's a couple here. One, when you're driving one of these to an area where you haven't been, you don't know what's in front of you. And you'll see in some of this, they're driving through a town that's completely destroyed. So there's not a lot of capabilities with a UGV like this. Like if it runs into something and there's an entire wall down in front of it, it's not going to be able to go around, not going to be able to go over that, most likely. So in this case, we have the overhead drone providing kind of guidance on where to go and how to get there. We have seen UGVs used quite a bit going backwards, which makes more sense when you think about it. Because if you've got the line of contact forward and then the resupply point, command and control point, medevac point, 2-3 kilometers back, you have a clear line. You understand what's between point A and point B, so you can repeat that process over and again. In this case, moving these drones forward, you can see where it starts to get pretty hesitant moving into some of the structures here. At any point, the thing could just fall into a hole, and that's it. It's over, right? How easy would it be to just shift off a little bit left or right based off of just the rubble all across this battlefield? That drone is completely out of use. So we'll probably see more of these UGVs. My guess is it's hard to say. I would say more in an urban setting because they don't run the risk of getting stuck in shell holes or just straight up mud. But in an urban setting and there's the detonation, you see it pretty clearly destroyed that entire facility. Now, they did move back and forth from the time we originally saw the Ukrainian soldiers in that shelter. So it's not clear, was this 5 minutes after that? Was it in near real time, or was this just destroying a fighting position that had been identified by the Russians previously? But either way, a couple kind of interesting drone clips I wanted to show you today, one from the Ukrainian side, another from the Russian side, showing just this technology, these tactics are changing every single day. There's no better, war is awful, start to finish, but there's no better innovator than people trying to stay alive in the middle of a war. And that's what you're seeing here, is people finding ways, pushing technology to the max, innovating new methods to try to stay alive or eliminate the enemy on the battlefield. So I'm sure we'll see more and more of this pretty soon. But that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.